And I was pretty defensive. I was defending my turf and defending every single viewer who had bought that book.
You know what is so disturbing to me? Why is my name even in this conversation?
Because you're Oprah Winfrey.
Can I say something?
Were you silent or were you silenced?
Are you risking anything at all entering the political arena to endorse Kamala Harris? And I think the answer people understand in this time and place is yes.
Ever thought Oprah Winfrey could rub somebody the wrong way? Kinda hard to believe, right? Well, even the Queen of Talk isn't everyone's cup of tea. In this video, we're pulling back the curtain on the celebrities who just can't stand Oprah. We'll dive into Monique's fiery allegations of betrayal, James Frey's dramatic downfall after Oprah's public scolding, and the unexpected tensions with stars like Angelina Jolie and Seal. Starting off today, we are talking about Angelina Jolie. Angelina Jolie and Oprah Winfrey, two of the most influential women in the world, seemed destined to join forces, especially when it comes to philanthropy in Africa. Oprah, passionate about empowering young girls through her Leadership Academy in South Africa, saw an ideal partner in Angelina, who has been a goodwill ambassador and adopted her daughter Zahara from Ethiopia. But when Oprah extended an invitation to collaborate, Angelina reportedly turned it down, leaving many scratching their heads and fueling the rumor mill. Whispers began circulating that the snub wasn't just a scheduling conflict. Remember when Brad Pitt left Jennifer Aniston for Angelina? Well, Oprah was openly sympathetic to Jennifer during that highly publicized split, firmly placing herself on Team Jen. Some speculate that Angelina wasn't too thrilled about Oprah's public support for her then rival. While neither has publicly addressed any tension, the story definitely adds an interesting layer to the complex tapestry of Hollywood relationships. Next, we are talking about Randy Jackson. From Randy Jackson's perspective, the whole Oprah situation felt like a slap in the face. Imagine watching someone you believe has a grudge against your late brother Michael not only interview your parents, but also get cozy with your nieces and nephews on national television. Randy couldn't shake the feeling that Oprah had it out for Michael, especially given how she seemed to spotlight his legal troubles at every turn. He took to social media, tweeting his frustration for the world to see. "I know how Oprah feels about my brother and family." To Randy, it wasn't just an interview, it was like a betrayal. He believed that Oprah was exploiting his family's pain for ratings, and that didn't sit right with him. The tension was definitely palpable, and from Randy's viewpoint, Oprah's actions only fueled the fire of distrust he had harbored for years. It's no wonder he became one of the celebrities who just can't stand Oprah Winfrey. Next, we are talking about Seal. Remember when Oprah delivered that electrifying speech at the 2018 Golden Globes? The one that had everyone on their feet and even sparked chatter about her running for president? More on that later. Well, not everyone was applauding. Enter Seal, the British singer known for his hits like Kiss from a Rose. Out of nowhere, he took to Instagram and threw some serious shade at Oprah. He posted a meme featuring photos of her cozying up to a certain ex-Hollywood executive who we shall not name due to his disgusting actions, but if you're wondering who I'm talking about, let's just say the Hollywood producer who had been exposed for decades of gross behavior and misconduct. The caption read, quote, "When you have been part of the problem for decades, but suddenly they all think you are the solution." Seal didn't stop there. He added his own biting words. "Oh, I forgot, that's right, you'd heard the rumors, but you had no idea he was actually serially harming young starry-eyed actresses who in turn had no idea what they were getting into. My bad." Talk about throwing down the gauntlet. His post ignited a firestorm, with fans and critics fiercely debating whether Seal was out of line or if he was courageously calling out hypocrisy. Many felt Seal was unfairly targeting Oprah without solid proof, pointing out her long-standing advocacy for women's rights and empowerment. Others thought he was highlighting a deeper issue in Hollywood's culture of silence. Seal later clarified that his intention wasn't to personally attack Oprah, but to shed light on the broader problem. Next, we are talking about Roseanne Barr. Okay, Roseanne Barr is definitely no stranger to controversy, and when it comes to Oprah Winfrey, she's definitely fired some shots. So picture this, it's 2008, the Democratic primaries are in full swing, and Roseanne is passionately supporting Hillary Clinton. Then comes Oprah throwing her influential weight behind Barack Obama. Roseanne didn't take kindly to this at all. She went on a public tirade accusing Oprah of being a quote, closeted Republican, and claiming she wasn't standing up for the working American woman. In Roseanne's eyes, Oprah's endorsement felt like a betrayal to the sisterhood, especially when a woman had a shot at the presidency. But Roseanne didn't stop there. Even after issuing an apology for her heated words, she couldn't resist stirring the pot once again. When whispers began about Oprah possibly running for president herself, Roseanne chimed in with her trademark bluntness. She quipped that she'd make a better president than Oprah, even throwing in actress Susan Sarandon for good measures. I'm really not sure where that came from. It was classic Roseanne, unfiltered and unapologetic. Her ongoing jabs kept the media buzzing and added another chapter to the list of celebrities who can't stand Oprah. James Frey thought he'd struck gold when Oprah selected his memoir, A Million Little Pieces, for her coveted book club. Overnight, his raw and gritty tale of addiction skyrocketed to the top of bestseller lists. But then, the bombshell dropped. Investigative journalists revealed that Frey had fabricated and exaggerated significant portions of his, quote, true story. When Oprah got wind of the deception, she felt personally betrayed, and she wasn't about to let that slide. In a tense and unforgettable episode of her show, Oprah brought Frey back for a public reckoning. Sitting across from him, she definitely did not mince her words. Quote, I feel duped, she told him bluntly. Quote, but more importantly, I feel that you betrayed millions of readers. The studio was dead silent as Frey squirmed under her gaze. The confrontation was brutal, and it played out in front of millions of viewers. The fallout was immediate. His publisher dropped him, bookstores pulled his book, and his reputation took a nosedive. Although they eventually reconciled years later, the damage was done. Frey had experienced firsthand the immense power Oprah wielded, and the peril of falling out of her favor. It's no surprise that he remains one of the celebrities who cannot stand Oprah. His story definitely serves as a cautionary tale. When you cross Oprah, there's nowhere to hide from the spotlight. And finally, we are ending off this list today with Monique. Monique's clash with Oprah Winfrey is one of Hollywood's most gripping tales of friendship gone wrong. Monique, fresh off her Oscar win for Precious, was on top of the world. She had always admired Oprah, seeing her as a mentor and a beacon of empowerment, but things took a very sharp turn when Oprah decided to air a show featuring Monique's family. A family fraught with painful memories. Oprah invited Monique's brother, who had admitted to harming her, for an exclusive interview. Monique had reluctantly given her blessing for this, hoping that it might bring healing to others. However, what she didn't expect was for Oprah to also invite her mother and father onto the show without her knowledge. Learning that her estranged parents were part of the episode felt like a punch in the gut. Monique was blindsided and felt deeply betrayed. She believed that Oprah had exploited her personal trauma for television ratings, turning her most vulnerable moments into sensationalized content. It wasn't just about the interview, it was about the trust that was shattered. Feeling cornered, Monique began to speak out. She accused Oprah, along with industry giants Tyler Perry and Lee Daniels, of blackballing her in Hollywood. She claimed that after she refused to aggressively promote Precious without any additional pay, they labeled her as being difficult, which is a tag that can be career-ending in show business. According to Monique, these powerful figures used their influence to sideline her, effectively putting her in what she called a Hollywood prison. In her stand-up routines and in interviews, Monique didn't hold back. She called out Oprah by name, making it crystal clear that the wounds were deep and the bridge was burnt. To her, Oprah wasn't the inspiring figure the world adored, but someone who had betrayed her trust and completely derailed her career.
Not everyone loves Oprah, and I think Mary-Kate and Ashley, Janet Jackson, Monique, and a couple of other notable names have pretty good reasons why. So Oprah came under fire back in 2021 for an interview she did in 2004 where she asked Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen what clothing size they were. Sure, at the time of the interview, rumors had been circulating that Mary-Kate was suffering from an eating disorder, but that doesn't make it okay. Even if they were already budding fashion designers, still not okay. Later that year, the actress turned fashion designer spent time in a rehab facility to receive treatment for a health-related issue. And then Ashley was quick to step in and say, yeah, you know what, people are gonna write what they're gonna write. We try not to read the good or the bad because it just comes with the territory. Either you're too fat, too skinny, but then Oprah interrupted saying, well, what size are you, by the way? And like, you can see Mary-Kate and Ashley both looking very uncomfortable, and rightfully so. And like Ashley tried to play it off being like, size, like, oh, like we're both petite. And then Oprah was not having it. She's like, oh, that's so interesting. Like, I'm obsessed with size. And like, you're like, I don't really know. This whole interaction makes me so uncomfortable because you can just tell that Oprah is looking for a story, for a news headline. And the girls are just like, hey, let's talk about our career. Let's talk about anything other than stuff that's actually troubling us. Janet Jackson's beef with Oprah Winfrey is also extremely personal for different reasons. So while Janet's a-okay on being interviewed with Oprah, and she was horrified when her brother's family was called on the show. She saw that as Oprah using Michael's family as a means to boost her ratings, and that's just disgusting. There are sources that have reported that there was an intense conversation between the duo, one that created a lasting feud, and rightfully so. Sure, yes, Michael did pass away, but his family was not old enough to be able to know to go on that show or not at the time when that happened. Back in March of 2010, Monique won the Best Supporting Actress Academy Award for her performance in Precious. And after that, she's been very open about her beliefs that she was blackballed in the entertainment industry for quite a long period of time at the hands of media moguls such as Oprah Winfrey. Oprah has a lot of power to this day, even though she doesn't have her talk show anymore. She still has her hands in a lot of things. And she happens to be the talk show host who had an interview with Monique's family days after Monique's big career accomplishment, which sounds great in theory, but just wait for the context, folks. Oprah sat down with the comedian's older brother, Gerald, who harmed Monique growing up. This was the first time he had admitted to his crimes. He confessed to also being a victim of the same actions by other family members, but that's not important. When Monique had her big moment, Oprah chose to bring on that and make that the primary discussion. It just doesn't make sense. One person on Twitter agreed with me saying like, it looks bad for Oprah. And I agree. Somebody else said that Oprah definitely seems like she has a mean, cold side. I just wonder why she was so mean to Monique. And Monique herself said like Oprah crossed her on so many different levels. And it's very blatant, to me at least. Yeah. She said she reached out to Oprah, but her efforts to communicate didn't really happen. It took 3 years after that interview when she confronted Oprah at a celebration for Lupita Nyong'o, being like, hey, I need to talk to you. And when Monique said that, the entire party went quiet. You could hear a pin drop because everybody was kind of like, oh boy, what's gonna happen? Monique said, since you didn't want to return my calls for whatever reason, I'm gonna say this right here. She asked Oprah, like, why did you invite my family on the show at that time when I was not talking to my family? And Oprah was like, oh, like, I didn't know the whole family was gonna show up. She literally said, I didn't know anything about that. If I did anything to offend you, I apologize. You're telling me the woman who created a media empire and micromanages everything didn't know? Sure. Okay, Pinocchio. Rose McGowan has called Oprah as fake as they come in a lot of scathing internet posts. Why? Well, Oprah's had friendships with scummy people. I can't name them, I can't talk about them, we can't show them, but like, you know who I'm talking about. Rose took to Twitter to speak out against the popular talk show host, sharing a photo of Oprah kissing a very disgraced person in Hollywood on the cheek. This was a photo taken in 2014, so it's not like a super old photo. It's recent enough that the rumors were swirling about the person that I can't talk about, that we can't show. I'm sorry, folks. McGowan is a Me Too activist, and she captioned the photo that she posted saying, I'm glad more are seeing the ugly truth of Oprah. I wish she were real, but she isn't. From being pals with scummy people to abandoning and destroying victims, she is about supporting a sick power structure for personal gain. She is as fake as they come. #lizard. In a recent episode of the Stephen A. Smith Show, he was reacting to the results of the US presidential election, and he called out celebrity figures like Oprah for alienating everyday people by trying to guilt them into voting for a certain candidate. He said, and I quote, "In the end, celebrities who are worth hundreds of millions, if not billions, who most American citizens feel are incredibly detached from their way of life and their quality of life, we're not going to get away and guilt them into doing something different than what their experience says is going on and what they should do about it." After playing a clip of Oprah imploring an audience to vote, while warning them it could be their last chance to vote should a certain candidate win, Smith rips the daytime talk legend apart for trying to scold or scare Americans into political action. He said, "This is the kind of stuff that alienates an electorate, alienates a voter, because the freedom that you tell them you have, you try to confiscate morally by letting them know, you ain't worth a damn unless you vote the way we say you should vote. Who's going to go for that in a general election? With an economy rife with inflation, with over 12 million people crossing all the time, the value of their dollars dissipating before their very eyes." He went on and on and on. And also, I'm just gonna say, he was consistent throughout the campaign that celebrity endorsements are useless on both sides. Like, he's laughed off former NFL quarterback Brett Favre for coming out in favor of the candidate that won. And like, look folks, we all remember the Believe video. Out of touch celebrities, yeah, out of touch. Toni Braxton took aim at Oprah in a TV expose, alleging the TV titan was mean to her during a 1998 interview about the singer's financial problems. So she insisted that the TV chat severely damaged her reputation after Oprah made some choice remarks about Toni's overspending, which led Braxton to declare bankruptcy. So this was a taped interview with VH1 for a Behind the Music special, and the singer said, "She was so freaking mean to me, I was in shock. She said, 'I hear you have Gucci flatware. I'm Oprah Winfrey and I don't have Gucci flatware.' And she was like, 'Well, you don't have Gucci flatware because you didn't want to buy it, not because you can't afford it.'" You might think otherwise, but people don't usually feud with Oprah, at least not publicly, which is why it was really jarring to see Taraji P. Henson speak out about the disrespect she faced on the set of The Color Purple, a film where Oprah was an executive producer and had a big role in like everything. Henson's comments sparked immediate rumblings of a feud between the two women, as well as a necessary conversation about the way Black women in Hollywood are constantly disrespected and underpaid. And while Oprah has claimed that there was no hatred between the two women, there was definitely some kind of mess. Back in December of last year, Taraji told The Hollywood Reporter that she was fed up with the industry. She was sick of being underpaid. She was fighting tooth and nail every project to get that same freaking quote. And later that month, Gayle King, Oprah's bestie, asked her about her saying that she wanted to retire from acting. And the star got teary, saying she was just tired of working so hard, being gracious at what she does, and getting paid a fraction of the cost. Over the years, a number of interviews have really shown us the cracks in Oprah's carefully curated facade. It is thanks to folks like Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, Howard Stern, Cindy Crawford, and so many more that we can really glimpse into the darkness behind the mogul. So Oprah came under fire back in 2021 for a 2004 interview on her show, The Oprah Winfrey Show, where she asked Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, who were the height of teeny bopper fashion, what clothing size they were. Now, at the time of the interview, rumors had been circulating that Mary-Kate was suffering from an eating disorder. And later that year, the actress turned fashion designer did spend time in a rehab facility to receive treatment for a health-related issue. So Oprah said, "I know a new rumor that's recently surfaced that has you really upset, right? You know, the one about eating." And now Ashley quickly jumped in to protect her sister, saying, "Yeah, you know, people are gonna write what they're gonna write. We try not to read the good or the bad because it just comes with the territory. Either you're too fat, too skinny, and people are just gonna write what they're..." And she was cut off by Oprah because Oprah wanted her little soundbite. Oprah was like, "Well, what size are you, by the way?" Now, you could very much see Mary-Kate and Ashley feel very uncomfortable, and Ashley tried deflecting, being like, size? Like, oh, we're both like petite. And then Oprah is not having it and being like, "Oh, that's so interesting," saying it like it's an inside joke with her in the audience. She's like, "I'm obsessed with size," and you're like, "I don't know." And thankfully at this point, like, poor Mary-Kate piped up and was like, "But you know, like, I really don't know. Like, if we were obsessed with our size, it'd be like a different story." Honestly, watching that entire video just left me feeling so icky, because it's like, who cares what size they are? Let them be. You get a car, and you get criticized for a lavish lifestyle. Controversial radio host Howard Stern accused Oprah Winfrey of showing off her wealth on social media. So he said, "Oprah's not embarrassed by her wealth at all." I think this is like a recent radio show excerpt, and he added, "She loves showing it off. It's effing mind-blowing. When you follow her on Instagram, you see her estates, her gardens, the people who service her, and you know." And his co-host interjected, "Service her? She's not a car." And then Stern's like, well, she kind of is. She's got servants and like people cooking and it's effing wild. Look folks, according to my sources, Oprah's got a net worth of $2.5 billion, which is a combination of her talk show success, her TV shows, and her brand ambassadorship stuff. So like, she's made herself. Stern continued saying the famed talk show host knows how to be rich and likes to show it off, which is something I'm not comfortable with. He's like, I don't think that people should show off their wealth. Now his co-host once again interjected and disagreed, arguing that she's just giving a fans a peek inside her life using social media, which is what public figures do. He literally said, Oprah's just showing you her life. She's not showing off. And then Howard Stern fired back saying that Oprah's lacking self-awareness. Well, you gotta be a little self-aware and know that there are people struggling out there. You gotta think about people who don't have anything to eat. You know what I'm saying? I mean, come on, you gotta be a little aware of this. Like folks, why do we follow anybody on social media? Because we like them, we aspire to be them. You should be considerate, yes, of others, but like you can flaunt your life. So speaking of out of touch, Oprah Winfrey's normal people skills were called into question back in 2006 following a cooking segment on The Oprah Winfrey Show. So she had invited Anna Ginsburg onto the set after Anna scooped a colossal $1 million for winning a national culinary contest. Unfortunately, the dish that helped her earn the prize didn't seem to appeal to Oprah's taste. So Ginsburg was like, oh, do you like it? Like, I hope so. This was a chicken and spinach stuffing meal that she'd created. And although Oprah insisted that she did like it, her face told a very different story. And then the situation got even more awkward when Oprah was like, did we get salt and pepper? I think we needed salt and pepper. So after the offending clip went viral a couple years later, Oprah decided to issue a defense of her MasterChef smackdown on Oprah Daily, saying, here's the deal. This is what I was thinking. I always wanted anybody who came onto the show, no matter what they did, to have a good experience. And I also wanted to stay in my own truth while also allowing them to have a good experience. Because the truth for me was that I'm used to having salt and pepper on my chicken. That's just the truth. I don't know about you, but I don't think I'd be making a boo-boo face on live television if I just didn't like something that minuscule. When Oprah interviewed Cindy Crawford and Elite Model Management founder John Casablancas back in 1986, she had the model stand up so the audience could see her body. Now, reflecting on the encounter about like 37 years later, Cindy Crawford was like, I was just something to be seen and not heard. And when you look at it through today's eyes, Oprah's like, stand up and show me your body. Show us why you're worthy of being here. Now, in the moment, Cindy Crawford didn't recognize it. And watching it back, she was like, oh my gosh. That was so not okay, really, especially from Oprah. You don't know why? Don't worry, folks, we'll get into it in a minute. So when Robin Williams and Nathan Lane did a joint interview to promote The Birdcage back in 1996, Oprah brought up potential rumors about Nathan's sexuality since he played an openly queer character in the film. And at the time, he wasn't ready to discuss his sexuality publicly. So Robin quickly changed the topic by making a joke. Well, fast forward to 2023, and Nathan has mentioned that he doesn't think Oprah was trying to out him, but he did say to Robin beforehand that he wasn't prepared, he was very scared of going out there and talking to Oprah, he was not prepared to discuss being gay on national television, he wasn't ready, and then Robin was like, oh, it's alright, don't worry about it, we don't have to talk about it, we won't talk about it. Well, obviously Oprah was like, let's do it. So apparently, according to Nathan, Robin swooped in, diverted Oprah, and went off on a tangent and protected him because he was a saint, and just went on to praise Robin, who I've never heard a bad thing about. Back in March of 2010, Monique won the Best Supporting Actress Academy Award for her performance in Precious. And then after that, everybody's like, okay, what did she do? Well, apparently she claimed she was blackballed in the entertainment industry at the hands of a lot of powerful people, one of them being Oprah Winfrey. So Oprah decided, so Monique won this Academy Award, right? And just a couple days later, Oprah decided to have Monique's family on the show, which sounds really great, right? Sounds cute, like, oh, supportive family. Not so much. Monique was not talking to her family at the time, especially not her older brother, who apparently harmed Monique when they were growing up. Now, this was the first time her brother had admitted his crimes and confessed to being a victim of the same actions by other family members, but that doesn't make it okay. Like, folks online were like, yo, Oprah needs to answer for this because it doesn't make sense and it looks bad for Oprah. Somebody else was like, Oprah definitely seems like she has a mean, cold side. Like, I just wonder why she was so mean in this situation. Monique herself said Oprah crossed her on many different levels by doing this. And like, she tried to reach out to have a private conversation, but her efforts to communicate with Oprah didn't happen. Well, fast forward, I think about 3 years, Monique and Oprah are at a celebration party for Lupita Nyong'o in honor of her Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress. So Monique said, and I quote, Oprah Winfrey was sitting on my right, and then I turned to her and said, now I need to talk to you. And apparently it got real quiet. Could hear a pin drop. Monique said, since you didn't want to return my calls for whatever reason, I'm going to say this right here. She asked Oprah, like, why did you invite my family on the show, knowing that our relationship was pretty severed at the time? But Oprah, in true Oprah fashion, was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea the entire family was gonna show up. And she said, like, oh, I didn't know anything about that. If I did anything to offend you, I apologize. Sure, we're gonna pretend this wasn't a calculated move by the queen of daytime TV. Back in 2007, Oprah had actress Jenny McCarthy on her show to promote some stupid book she wrote about her son's autism. Now, I never went to med school, but I do have Google, and according to CDC statistics, more than 3.5 million Americans have an autism spectrum disorder for which scientists have yet to identify a definite cause. But Jenny McCarthy announced very matter-of-factly that her son's autism was caused by vaccinations, specifically the MMR vaccine. Now, this had nearly eradicated measles, mumps, and rubella in the States at the time. And if you didn't already know that, it's probably because society at the time didn't have to worry about those diseases for decades. If you don't know, measles did not mess around in its glory days. It took the lives of thousands of people a year. The number of total cases had dropped to less than 200 annually until these two folks decided to discredit science. After that, there was a gradual spike in cases. Back in 2014, there was a record 23 outbreaks and over 600 cases. I don't know, maybe it was a coincidence. You take the information and make your own decision.
Celebrity demands are nothing new, as we've seen from our favorite diva Jennifer Lopez. But what if Oprah had a way of making them so subtle, almost hidden, that it never really clicked for us in the moment? I respect those who like to keep their personal lives, well, personal. There are some intimate things that people like to keep close to the heart. Like Michael Jackson, for example. To me, this was outrageous. Asking such a personal question of, has he ever been intimate with someone on live television? We can clearly see in the video as well, as soon as she asks that question, he becomes extremely uncomfortable by it, taking in a sharp breath from being caught off guard like that. Like most people, you'd see that reaction and you would move on from the topic. But not Oprah, apparently. She eggs him on saying, I just want to know, I want to know. Why? Why do you want to know about this man's personal life so badly? What really aggravates me about this is that throughout the beginning of the clip, you can see what she's hinting at, and then finally hits Michael with a blow by saying this sentence specifically as, I'm gonna ask you this, and it's embarrassing for me to ask you this, but I'm gonna ask you anyway. So you stopped yourself at the beginning, we can see the wheels turning in your head, and yet you proceeded to continue onwards with it. Michael was very respectful with the situation, saying that he was a gentleman, explaining that sure, he may be old-fashioned, but to him it's something that's kept private. After clearly avoiding the question multiple times, she says in this disappointing tone, so you're not gonna answer it. Do you usually ask all the celebrities who come onto your show about their personal lives like that? Continuing to go down this Oprah rabbit hole, I've noticed there have been patterns where it doesn't seem like Oprah appreciates being contradicted or isn't able to grab what she really wants out of people from their interviews. From watching these interviews thus far, she cleverly does this in a way where she doesn't outright say, no, you need to be saying this. But you can tell in her body language and in the tone of her voice that she is trying to persuade you somewhere else. I love That's So Raven growing up, and she had done an interview as well with Oprah. Raven clearly shows that she doesn't want anything to do with labels in terms of preference when it comes to dating and even identity when she claims herself as only American and not African American. Oprah then jokingly goes, oh girl, don't set up the Twitter on fire, then proceeds to go, stop the tape right now, as they're both laughing. No harm there, right? Is Oprah agreeing with her maybe? The interview takes a bit of a turn, however, as once again, Oprah is egging her on a little bit here, going, you know you're gonna get a lot of flack by saying you're not African American. To which Raven reiterates she doesn't label herself as such. Watching Oprah's body language here is interesting, as she's constantly shifting around a little uncomfortably now that this topic is out there. It seems her interest has peaked. Her tone changes a little as well, not so much demanding her, but with a very stern tone she goes, so I want you to really say what you really mean by that. It's very subtle, but specifically with the emphasis on mean, made me revisit the interview from a different perspective. Raven says what she means, so I'm personally not understanding what Oprah here isn't understanding. This last story is a bit of a long one, but I promise you it's worth it. Those of you who are artist performers watching this right now, please raise your hand if you've ever been told the phrase, you'll be paid in exposure. Because I sure have, and exposure doesn't buy me eggs and milk at the grocery store. That's exactly what happened with this performer, Revolva, who's a multidisciplinary artist that specializes in hula hooping, circus acts, as well as her own writer and character performer. Revolva titles the story An Open Letter to Oprah. The Life You Want asked me to work for free. The title alone already hooked me, as I was shocked to see that people who would be performing alongside the Oprah were getting absolutely nada from it. Revolva starts her letter by explaining the sheer excitement she was experiencing at how her life was about to change for the better. I've always wanted to hear, welcome Revolva, as I cartwheeled on stage. And the majority of us have experienced that sort of ambition when brought into a new performing opportunities that may boost your career. The woman was so ready to have her story told, to do the things she loved to do and finally get paid for it. Then I tell you my story. The profundity of all my lingering student loan debt causing you to weep and then declare to America that I am your new BFF. Revolva goes on to explaining that she had been within this industry for 12 years, wanting to make even the slightest splash out there, wanting to break free from the toxic culture of performance industry and showcase herself from what feeds her soul. As Revolva was peaking with ecstasy and euphoria, the poor woman was immediately shot down as the conversation with Oprah's producer continued. They stated, "Okay, just to be clear, you'd be on the stage outside of the event. And just to be clear, Oprah will not be on that stage. Oh, and just to be clear, this isn't a paid gig." This feels like an entirely different set overall. If these local performers are going to be on a completely separate stage and Oprah is on the other one, who's going to be in the audience? Also, might I add, Revolva states that tickets for the show ranged from $99 to $999. You're one of the biggest influencers in the world, to which I'm sure you'd be having quite the audience turn up. Why aren't these performers getting paid? I don't watch Oprah, but I'm also well aware of the classic video of look under your chair for a gift or surprise. But I guess it's easier to do that in a smaller audience where giving out those gifts would be like buying a cup of coffee for you. Revolva even comments, featuring trailblazers who never have to dig through every compartment in their car for enough change to cross the Bay Bridge would be ringing up the local performers asking them to do their job for no pay. But hey, apparently she would receive a free ticket to the performance as well. Sorry, but an Oprah Winfrey ticket just doesn't cut out for apartment rent. Revolva would have understood the situation better if she was the one to call and ask about performing, but she wasn't. Oprah Winfrey's producer called her, thinking they would just bend over backwards for them. Everyone else was apparently getting paid though, high-end performers and all the tech and sound crew to make sure you look and sound good, right? I feel for this creator deeply as someone who used to fall prey into performing for free. However, Revolva stood her ground and actually stated she wanted some sort of pay before continuing. This was a prior agreement of having travel costs reimbursed, but that was it. And when Revolva took her right to ask for a proper payment, she was told that the acts were now fully booked and would be reached out in the future for any other opportunities. Revolva took this experience as a spiritual learning lesson, but was still proud of herself for sticking true to her art and values. Sometimes you really got to look into the hidden details of it when it comes to brain-flipping tactics that some people will do, especially when it comes to live television.
Following her milestone 70th birthday on January 29th, Oprah Winfrey has remained a constant presence in the headlines. From her controversial weight loss methods to her departure from the Weight Watchers board after a decade, and her support for weight loss drugs like Ozempic, the self-made billionaire continues to captivate public attention. But beyond these well-known stories, there are lesser-known controversies that have surrounded her illustrious career. Starting off today, we are talking about her rise to fame and some of the early controversies. Imagine being just 17 years old and stepping into the fast-paced world of media. That was Oprah Winfrey. Hailing from humble beginnings, she landed a part-time gig at a local radio station while still in high school. Her charisma and talent didn't go unnoticed. Soon enough, she broke barriers by becoming the first black female news anchor at WLAC-TV in Nashville. Can you believe that she left Tennessee State University just one credit shy of graduation to seize this golden opportunity? Talk about taking a leap of faith. But her journey wasn't all smooth sailing. When she moved to WJZ-TV in Baltimore, things took an unexpected turn. Instead of co-anchoring the coveted 6 p.m. news slot, she was reassigned to host a low-profile local talk show called People Are Talking. It felt like a setback. Imagine being sidelined when you're aiming for the stars. But here's where Oprah's story gets really interesting. Instead of letting this derail her ambitions, she embraced the challenge. She poured her heart into the talk show format, connecting with audiences on a deeper level with her warmth and authenticity. This so-called demotion turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Hosting People Are Talking ignited a passion that she didn't know she had. She discovered she had a knack for engaging with people, drawing out their stories, and touching hearts. This newfound love for talk shows set the stage for her next big move. It wasn't long before she took Chicago by storm with AM Chicago, transforming it from a struggling program into a top-rated sensation. And the rest, as they say, is history. That initial bump in the road led Oprah to create The Oprah Winfrey Show, a groundbreaking program that would become the highest-rated talk show in television history. In 1985, Oprah made her acting acting debut in The Color Purple, earning an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress. Despite the film's success, it faced criticism for its portrayal of black men, leading to debates within the black community. Oprah found herself amidst this controversy, navigating the complexities of her dual role as both a media mogul and an actor. Oprah's entrepreneurial flair didn't stop at dominating daytime TV. She took a leap and launched Harpo Productions, flipping her name backward for a bit of fun and branding genius. This move was all about owning her content and building an empire on her own terms. But the real roller coaster started when she unveiled the Oprah Winfrey Network, better known as OWN, in 2011. You'd think slapping Oprah's name on a network would be a surefire recipe for success, right? Well, surprise. OWN stumbled out of the gate with dismal ratings. Critics were buzzing, advertisers were hesitant, and there were whispers that even Oprah couldn't save this sinking ship. The network faced hefty financial losses, leading to significant layoffs and a desperate need for a content overhaul. Behind the scenes, things were even messier. Harpo Productions found itself entangled in legal battles over intellectual property rights. One particularly juicy scandal involved a lawsuit filed by a motivational speaker who claimed that Oprah had infringed on her trademarked phrase, "Own your power." The allegation was that Oprah used this exact phrase across her magazine, TV shows, and events without permission. The lawsuit stirred quite the media frenzy before it was eventually settled quietly out of court. These challenges forced Oprah to make some tough calls. She brought in heavyweight partners like Tyler Perry, whose shows injected much-needed life into OWN's lineup. So, while the world saw the polished surface of Oprah's media domination, few were aware of the backstage drama. The lawsuits, the financial gambles, and the nail-biting moments when everything hung in the balance. Oprah is an iconic figure who has spent decades sharing her personal battles with weight and advocating for self-love and healthy living, and she recently ignited a firestorm of controversy. Remember when she famously pulled out a wagon loaded with 67 pounds of animal fat on her show to represent her weight loss? For years, she was the poster child for perseverance, pushing for sustainable lifestyle changes over quick fixes. So imagine the shockwaves when she openly admitted to using weight loss medications. Yes, the very ones she once dubbed as an easy way out. In her ABC special Shame, Blame, and the Weight Loss Revolution, Oprah revealed that she turned to medications like Ozempic to help her shed pounds. This candid confession caught everyone off guard. Critics and fans couldn't believe that the woman who had long promoted natural weight management was now endorsing pharmaceutical aids. The backlash was swift. Detractors accused her of abandoning her principles and potentially misleading her massive audience by promoting what they saw as a shortcut rather than the hard-earned results of diet and exercise. But Oprah didn't back down. She explained that these medications helped her stop obsessing about food, giving her a sense of freedom she hadn't experienced before. She emphasized that weight issues are complex and deeply personal and sometimes require medical intervention. This unexpected twist not only sparked heated debates about the ethics of celebrity endorsements, but also opened up conversations about the stigma surrounding weight loss treatments. Amid the whirlwind that was 2020, Oprah Winfrey found herself unexpectedly entangled in a wild internet conspiracy that very few saw coming. As the world grappled with unprecedented events, social media lit up with outrageous and completely unfounded rumors that her Florida home had been raided by police and that she was arrested for involvement in a trafficking ring. The claims were as shocking as they were baseless, yet they spread like wildfire across various platforms. Imagine waking up to find your name trending worldwide for something that you had absolutely no part in. Oprah swiftly took to Twitter, now X, to shut down the chatter, quote, "Just got a phone call that my name is trending and being trolled for some awful fake thing. It's not true." Now, let's take a moment to peel back the layers on Oprah's personal life, a subject that's both fascinating and surprisingly under the radar. Did you know that Oprah has been in a committed relationship with Stedman Graham since way back in 1986? That's nearly 4 decades of partnership without a marriage license. They even got engaged in 1992, but here's the kicker: they chose not to walk down the aisle. This unconventional decision has set tongues wagging for years. People have speculated endlessly, some suggesting commitment issues, others whispering about hidden troubles, but Oprah has been refreshingly open about their choice. She believes that not being married has actually strengthened their bond. In her own words, she realized she didn't want the quote sacrifices, the compromises, the day in, day out commitment required to make a marriage work. Instead, she and Stedman have crafted their own version of happily ever after, one that doesn't fit the traditional mold but works perfectly for them. Then there's her decision to not have children, another personal choice that's put her under the microscope. In a society that often pressures women into motherhood, Oprah took a different route. She has candidly shared that she doesn't regret not having kids. Why? Because she understands the immense responsibility that comes with raising a child. During her years on The Oprah Winfrey Show, she met countless guests whose lives were impacted by neglectful or unprepared parents. Those experiences reinforced her belief that motherhood just wasn't her calling. Oprah Winfrey is universally admired for her incredible philanthropy, having donated millions through her foundations and launching the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls in South Africa. But here's a bombshell you might not have heard about. Back in 2007, this very school was rocked by a shocking scandal. A staff member was accused of serious misconduct involving the students, a nightmare scenario for any institution, let alone one so close to Oprah's heart. Imagine the shockwaves this sent through the tight-knit community. Oprah, who had invested not just money but her soul into creating a safe haven for these girls, was devastated. But instead of hiding behind PR statements or letting others handle the fallout, she took charge in a way that only Oprah can. She flew straight to South Africa, stood before the parents, and addressed the issue head-on. The accused staff member was promptly fired, and Oprah implemented stringent new measures to protect her students' well-being. She overhauled the school's policies, brought in experts to ensure such an incident could never happen again, and provided support to the affected students.
Oprah Winfrey's cancellation has been a long time coming. From mistreating guests to promoting frauds, here's our list of Oprah warning signs we all chose to ignore. Starting off, we have the fact that many celebrity guests have spoken out about how they were mistreated by Oprah. Oprah interviewed actress Monique's brother, Gerald, who mistreated her growing up. Monique, in a since-deleted Periscope video, claimed she gave Oprah her blessing to conduct the interview, but was shocked and horrified when Oprah had her and Gerald's parents in her show's audience for the piece. In May 2010, a source told Radar Online, Monique has decided to forgive Oprah and move on, although the interview hurt her to her heart. But she's still not forgiven her family, and unfortunately, the grudge can now go to the grave because her parents, Stephen and Alice, are getting older now. She feels that her parents have never fully accepted Gerald's role in what happened.
Would say, Oprah Winfrey, stop hiding behind what you call was negative comments, because what people are beginning to do is see you for who you are.
But later in 2015, Monique claimed powerful people had blackballed her in Hollywood and hinted that Oprah was to blame. "Thank you, Miss Oprah Winfrey," she said during a comedy performance. Now, another star who spoke out was Toni Braxton. She did an interview where she recalled being slammed in a 1998 sit-down with Oprah. "She was so frickin' mean to me. I was in shock," she recounted in a taped statement for the music series Behind the Music. "I couldn't believe it because I loved her so much. She pretty much reprimanded me." Now, as Toni remembers it, Oprah's shaming of her didn't end there. "She made me feel this big," she added. When people are coming out and saying that they had a horrible experience on your show, that's a huge red flag. Now, if that's how celebrities felt, who knows how everyday people were treated. Then Oprah has also promoted and given a platform to fake doctors, including Dr. Oz and Dr. Phil. Oprah made Dr. Oz famous as she made him a regular guest, promoted his books, and endorsed his advice on her show. Now, she even gave him his own TV show through her production company. But it turns out that all he wanted to do was make a quick buck and not actually help people. In 2018, he settled a $5.25 million class action lawsuit related to his boostering of bunk diet pills without admitting fault. Now, according to another provider's review of a sample of Oz's episode, feuds, about 78% of the doctor's statements didn't align with evidence-based medical guidelines. If Oprah didn't give him a platform, then he wouldn't have harmed people like this. Now the same thing goes for Dr. Phil. He first came on the Oprah Winfrey Show in 1998 and soon began appearing in a regular Tuesday segment to offer relationship and life strategy advice. Now in 2002, he launched his own syndicated daytime talk show, Dr. Phil, a spin-off of his segments on Oprah's show, which was produced by her Harpo Productions. Now it turns out Dr. Phil is a phony. While he did once hold a therapist license, he doesn't have one now. He hasn't had one since 2006, and even then, it was in the state of Texas and not the state of California where his show is filmed. But according to Dr. Phil, he doesn't need one. I retired my license, I don't need a license, I've chosen to pursue a different course and use of my education, he said. Now his show has been full of lies and he's been seen taking advantage of and manipulating guests. It's just horrible that he has a platform, but again, these two men rose to fame because of being endorsed by Oprah. There's also the fact that Oprah has exploited some of her guests that she's had on her show. In 2004, Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen were guests on the Oprah Winfrey Show, and Mary-Kate had been hounded by the press about her weight at this time, with intense media speculation that the star was suffering from an eating disorder. During the interview, Oprah says, "I know there's been a rumor that has recently surfaced that's really upset you." Now Mary-Kate and Ashley were both clearly taken aback by the question, and a tense moment of silence followed by Oprah saying, "You know, the one about eating." Now Mary-Kate was so thrown by the line of questioning, she looked almost on the verge of tears, and Ashley jumped in to rescue her. "Yeah, you know, people are going to write what they're going to write," they say. Now after some awkward back and forth, Oprah asked the Olsen twins what dress size they are, and they reacted uncomfortably by saying, "I don't know." Now it was obvious that the questions about their body was uncomfortable, but Oprah still pushed. When they said they weren't sure, Oprah hit back sarcastically saying, "Oh, you're not sure? That's so interesting." Later that same year that the Oprah interview aired, Mary-Kate checked into a rehab facility to seek treatment for a food-related health disorder. Now Oprah should be ashamed of asking that, as it probably fueled Mary-Kate's problem, and it was honestly just so gross, and Oprah has never apologized for it. Oprah has also been known to help frauds on her show. Now it seems like she and her team didn't vet their guests as well as they should have, and that was evident when it came to Charlene Zimmerman in the year 2000. Now turns out she was a fraud. She claimed to be passing away soon due to cancer, and she was arrested after authorities learned her illness was a fraud scheme. Now she was charged with second-degree theft after accepting about $10,000 in gifts, including money, food, clothing, and vacations from charities who believed that she was going to pass away from liver cancer. Charity organizations started sending her help shortly after she appeared on Oprah during a 1998 segment about mothers with terminal cancer. At the time, an Oprah spokeswoman confirmed Charlene's appearance on the show, but offered no further comment. Now investigators said the woman told her family, friends, and national TV audience that she was going to pass away from cancer, and she even shaved her own head and sliced her skin to simulate the effects of chemotherapy and surgery. Police began investigating the woman after donors began asking about her health. She had been terminal for 2 years, Police Chief Larry Phillips told the Post. People were concerned because she didn't look like she had this type of disease. Now according to Larry, her husband did not know that his wife was faking her illness. She told him she had a terminal illness and it was her dying wish that she'd assume to handle parts of it privately, Larry said. She told him he didn't have to take off work while she went for chemo, and when he'd come home that night, she'd look and act as if she had chemotherapy treatment. Yikes, this is just not a good look for Oprah or her show. Then there was the book club controversy. Now if you don't know, Oprah had a book club and she added James Frey's book A Million Little Pieces to the reading list. In October 2005, James appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show to promote his book, which the talk show host had previously said she couldn't put down, calling it a gut-wrenching memoir that is raw and it's so real. Now when James was promoting this book on talk shows or other media outlets, it was referred to as a memoir, but large parts of the stories were later found to be exaggerated or fabricated, sparking a media controversy. Now this was discovered after an investigation conducted by the Smoking Gun. They determined that James had actually fictionalized some of the story. So he was caught lying, and the fact that Oprah promoted it again was not a good look. Controversy arose after Oprah initially defended the book, but she later confronted James on her show in January 2006. She began the live program by telling him, "It's difficult for me to talk to you because I feel really duped. But most importantly, I feel that you betrayed millions of readers." Now, James admitted to Oprah that he had altered and embellished details of his story, including the fact that he had been in jail for just several hours, not 87 days, as stated in his book. Now, Oprah also confronted the publisher of A Million Little Pieces, saying her staff had been contacted about possible inaccuracies in the book, only to be told that the publishing company stood by James's story as a work of nonfiction. During the show, the publisher acknowledged that A Million Little Pieces had not been fact-checked. I mean, at least Oprah did her research about the book afterwards, but her helping spread misinformation is truly dangerous, and she hasn't taken a lot of accountability.
So during the big fires in Maui, residents fleeing the carnage of the flames were held up at the gates of Oprah's very large fenced-in property. She wasn't staying at her vacation home at the time, and she did open them up upon learning of the tragedy, but residents felt a certain way knowing they had to contact authorities to get permission to cross the completely fenced private property. They just wanted to get out. They wanted to get beyond, not to invade her home or anything. So afterwards, Oprah teamed up with fellow Hollywood heavyweight Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to launch the People's Fund of Maui for residents with an initial donation of $10 million, which sounds like a lot until you remember she's a billionaire, a multi-billionaire. She said in a statement on the Today Show last August, "We've been meeting with community leaders for the past couple of weeks, just trying to figure out what we can do." And The Rock added, "In this time of need, you want to take care of the greatest need of the people, and that's giving them money. It's going to take a long time to rebuild. It'll probably get a little worse before it gets better, but we're here, doing what we can do." Well, here's the thing. Where did that money go? Where did the money come from? What did they do? A meme account on Twitter went viral in August of this year when they realized Oprah donated $150 million to a political campaign this year. So they said, and I quote, "Almost a year ago, Oprah and The Rock faced backlash after asking struggling peasants to donate to the Maui Fund they launched to help wildfire victims. They committed to donating $10 million themselves, and then a year later, a lot of victims of the fire remain unaccounted for, hundreds if not thousands of people are still homeless, and the island has yet to be rebuilt." So that post racked up a couple million views. 2.3 if you're wondering, in under 24 hours. And a lot of the replies had conspiracy theories about Oprah's motive. So for instance, one person speculated that her real goal is to buy up Hawaii, which, ooh. Another critic declared, "Oprah is a fake and a fraud," and The Rock was not heat-free. He caught some heat as well for being a self-described free thinker and a patriot. He caught some heat online after somebody who describes himself as a free thinker and patriot said he's a minion to the elite and a tool. I can't say how I feel about Oprah on here. So somebody else added, "What happened to all that money people donated?" So the big controversy is how wealthy Americans have taken over large portions of Hawaiian real estate. Even while native Hawaiians struggle to just receive land promised to be returned to them from the US government. People are on a 40-year-old waiting list for a home that the US government stole from them over a century ago. Back in 2007, Oprah had Jenny McCarthy on her show to promote some really stupid book she wrote. Literally, it's the stupidest thing ever. About her son's autism. So look folks, full disclosure, I went to school for journalism, not for medical stuff, but I do have Google. And according to CDC statistics, which I trust, more than 3.5 million Americans have an autism spectrum disorder, for which scientists have yet to identify a definite cause. I personally have ADHD. It's genetics, folks. But Jenny McCarthy, who also didn't go to med school, she announced very matter-of-factly that her son's autism was caused by vaccinations, specifically the MMR vaccine. So this vaccine had nearly eradicated measles, mumps, and rubella in the US. And if you didn't already know that, well, it's because we didn't really need to worry about those diseases for decades. Mumps and rubella aren't serious. Well, as serious, but measles didn't mess around in its heyday. It took the lives of thousands of people a year. Now, the total number of cases had dropped to less than 200 annually until Jenny McCarthy and Oprah decided to just discredit science and go nuts. So the result? A spike in measles cases. Let's go back 10 years. 2014, there was a record 23 outbreaks and almost 700 cases. Now, is this a coincidence? Or, is this spreading misinformation, people listening, and following the wrong idea? You can take the facts for yourself and decide for yourself. I'm just gonna stay calm and move on. So thanks to Oprah's weakness for theories that veer towards the decidedly stupid, her legacy is kind of tarnished. So sure, we have to give credit. On one hand, she did endorse a lot of credible things in her heyday. She gave away a lot of cars, a lot of money. She endorsed Barack Obama. She endorsed John Steinbeck's East of Eden. It became a bestseller 51 years after it was published because Oprah said she loved it. But on the other hand, and I'm sorry folks, I'm gonna get a little angry here, we have Oprah to blame for Dr. Oz, the Turkish-American heart surgeon. He first appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show in 2004 and quickly became, along with Dr. Phil and Rachel Ray, part of Oprah's team of experts. These were people that regularly appeared on her show. They had their segments. I remember when Dr. Oz first appeared, my mom loved him. So Dr. Oz is like a pick and choose kind of person. He's like, you know what, I don't find that fact convenient. We're gonna do away with it. He's got an egregious lack of integrity because he promotes quack treatments and cures in the interest of personal financial gain. He's been compared to being more of a Kardashian than an actual doctor because, according to his critics, and that includes a lot of colleagues, like professional doctor people, they argue that his endorsement under a medical banner of certain remedies, we're talking pseudoscientific to kooky to who knows what, yeah, it's immoral. It's been argued that the Dr. Oz show wasn't a medical show. It was just an entertainment show with a medical font, and it was a show that just really was a scam. And now, in recent news, if we're talking about things Dr. Oz has done, he's been promoted to lead the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Now, I can't use the language I want to use right now when I have a personal opinion on that, but let's just say if you look at the facts, we're in for a rough couple of years. So once upon a time, Oprah found herself in a brand new situation on her show. Now, it wasn't like a new segment or a new expert. She had to make a retraction. She had to apologize. What did she have to apologize for? Was it saying the wrong word? Was it for being too invasive? No. She decided to promote this book. It was a book by author James Frey. It was called A Million Little Pieces, and it was this memoir. Well, let's put a little asterisk there, folks. This wasn't a memoir, this was a fabricated story that she promoted as real, and then when people like, I don't know, the New York Times came calling, everybody realized, oh no. So she said, and I quote, "I left the impression that the truth does not matter. To everyone who has challenged me about this book, you are absolutely right." Which, hey, you know, good for Oprah, right? She's admitting to being wrong, and she's counseled her guests through that on her show many times. It's not an easy thing to do. It's not easy to do in front of millions of people on live TV. But she didn't have a choice, because the initial investigations into this book showed that Frey lied about everything. So this is like a fantastical story about like everything going wrong for one person and this girl. He lied about all of it. He lied about the time he spent in jail, about run-ins with the law. There were people at centers that he went to that were like, absolutely not, this is not what happened. And hey, if you were one of the people that were like, hey Oprah, apologize, retract, you got it. But how Oprah went about it, if I had a red flag, I'd be waving it right now. So Oprah tore into Frey over a lot of notes and moments in the memoir. Everything that had either been proven false or was kind of dubious. And the way she did it almost had me feeling sorry for Frey. Let me explain. So Oprah spit out zinger after zinger after zinger. She was like, it's a lie. You presented as a false person. And it's kind of hard to look at this and not think that Frey was just being put on display not to set the record straight. It was for a public punishing. It was more of a, how dare you embarrass Oprah instead of a, how dare you lie to people and get away with it. More than once, Oprah emphasized that the whole thing embarrassed her. It was all about her, remember that. And her revenge was to shame him in front of a live studio audience so the blame could get shifted to him. Now at the time, everybody was like, oh my gosh, who knew Oprah was an eye for an eye kind of lady? Now we know this, but at the time it was a bit of a shocker. She went so far as to bring the publisher of the book on the show and ask, like, why was it mislabeled? Why was it not, called based on a true story like movies are? Now, apparently, allegedly, the publishers took what had been a novel and they made it a memoir instead. And now you know what happened there. Oprah Winfrey is a walking red flag, and it's something that we need to talk about. So once upon a time, Oprah found herself in a position she had never been in before that. She had to apologize for her audience. She said, oh, I regret that phone call. This was a live taping. And what was she referring to? Her phone into Larry King, when she expressed her absolute love for James Frey, an author who wrote this book. It was this mega selling memoir, A Million Little Pieces, and it turns out it was all fake. Yeah, nobody liked this. She said, "I left the impression that the truth does not matter. To everyone who has challenged me about this book, you are absolutely right." And hey, in theory, good for Oprah, right? Admitting to being wrong. You know, she's counseled many people on her show many times. You know, it's not an easy thing to do. It's part of Oprah's brand. But, and when I talk about this book being fake, being a scandal, there was reports in the New York Times, like this was bad. People were coming for Oprah. So she had to do this live apology. So besides the initial investigation showing that the author had lied about the time he had spent in jail, all these various runs in with the law, there was people at the rehab center that he attended that were like, yeah, no, the portrait of his life here, fake, fake, fake. So people were saying, Oprah, apologize. Why did you have this fraud on your show? What's going on? And hey, everybody who wanted the apology, they got it. But in a way that had people waving red flags about her behavior. So as Oprah really went in on Fry over various moments in his memoir that had either been proven false or remained dubious, you almost couldn't help feeling a little bit sorry for the man. Now let me explain before you get your pitchforks in the comment section. I get it, instant gratification. Let me get to it. So as the audience clapped when Oprah would spit out zinger after zinger saying, "It's a lie, I think you presented as a false person," it was hard to avoid thinking that this author was being put on display not to set the record straight, but for a public punishing. Dare I say almost a witch trial of sorts. Now more than once Oprah emphasized that this experience was embarrassing for her, and her revenge was shaming him in front of a live studio audience. And at the time, it was shocking, because everybody was like, who knew that Oprah was an eye for an eye kind of lady? Throughout all of that time, Oprah had blamed the author's publisher for mislabeling the book, insisting that it should have been called a novel based on a true story instead of a memoir. Now, rumors have swirled around alleging that Doubleday, the publisher, or the direct woman in charge of publishing, Nan Talese herself, actually took what had been a novel and rechristened it a memoir, hoping for the kinds of sales only afforded to true stories. So Oprah brought the publisher on, Talese, to prod her about it. She asked whether there weren't red flags in a million little pieces that should have led Doubleday to investigate whether the story was true. Like at the very bare minimum, the publishing company at the very least should have required the author to include an editor's note, making clear that he had altered events and changed many characteristics of everything in his memoir. But here's a question. So if Oprah could see at that point in time that outrageous events were red flags that the publisher should have made a note of, why didn't she pause there too before choosing this book for her book club and calling it the greatest thing, the most tragic thing, like praising it, promoting it? Oprah did her very best to play wounded, claiming that she felt duped and conned by James Frey. She said, "The book is so fantastical." Well, then why did Oprah take it at face value and sell it to all of her followers at the beginning? So there's two possibilities here, folks. She's either somebody who was conned very easily, or she just wanted the ratings from the controversy. After all publicity is good publicity. Oh, I almost forgot, by the way. So that confrontation I've been talking about in detail, it's been completely scrubbed from the internet. I don't know, seems a little sus. So back in 2007, Oprah had Jenny McCarthy on her show to promote some book she wrote. It was like some very stupid book about her son's autism. And now look, I never went to med school, but I do have Google, and according to CDC statistics, more than 3.5 million Americans have an autism spectrum disorder, for which scientists have yet to identify a cause, other than just knowing like genetics and a lot of other things. But Jenny McCarthy, who also didn't go to med school as far as I'm aware, announced very matter-of-factly that her son's autism was caused by MMR. Now, this was something that had eradicated all sorts of things, mumps, rubella, and worse, in the United States. And if you didn't already know that, it's probably because society hadn't had to worry about those diseases for decades. Mumps and rubella aren't as serious, but measles did not mess around in its glory days. It took the lives of thousands of people a year, and the total number of cases had dropped to less than 200 annually, until Jenny McCarthy and Oprah talked about all this on their show. And what happened? A spike in measles cases. 2014, which is only 10 years ago, had a record 644 cases. Now, was that merely a coincidence? I don't know, folks. You take the information available and decide for yourself. I've said my piece. So thanks to Oprah's weakness for theories that veered towards the decidedly questionable, her legacy has been called into question, and by more people than just me. So sure, on one hand she did endorse a lot of credible things in her heyday. She endorsed Barack Obama. She endorsed John Steinbeck's East of Eden, which became a bestseller after being featured on her show, which was 51 years after it was published. Because if I haven't established already how much power this woman had in her heyday before now, you should understand that. But then we get to the other pillar. We have Oprah to blame for Dr. Oz, the Turkish-American heart surgeon who first appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show in 2004 and quickly became, along with Dr. Phil and Rachel Ray, part of Oprah's team of experts who regularly appeared on her show and got their own spin-offs. So Dr. Oz dispenses with the facts he doesn't find convenient. He manifests an egregious lack of integrity by promoting quack treatments and cures in the interest of personal financial gain. He's more like a Kardashian than a surgeon. And that's according to a lot of his critics who are in like doctoral fields. And they argue that his endorsements under a medical banner of certain remedies, ranging from the pseudoscientific to the downright kooky, are immoral. They've argued that the Dr. Oz show was not a medical show. They were going so far as saying that you'd be better off taking medical advice from Dr. Pepper. And now, recently, the man has been promoted to lead Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Now, I can't use the same language with y'all that I used when I called my dad the other night when this news dropped, but let's just say it wasn't internet friendly. Alright, you get a car, and you get criticized for a lavish lifestyle. Controversial radio host Howard Stern accused Oprah Winfrey of showing off her wealth on social media. Now, he said, and I quote, "Oprah's not embarrassed by her wealth at all." This was a recent radio show episode. He mentioned that she loves showing it off on social media. He said, "It's effing mind-blowing when you follow her on Instagram. You see her estates, plural, her gardens, the people who service her, and and then his co-host Robin interjected like, "Service her? She's not a car." And then Howard Stern was like, "Well, she kind of is. She's got servants and she's got people and cooking for her, and it's effing wild." Now, according to Forbes, Oprah has a net worth of $2.5 billion, which is a combination of her talk show success, all of her TV shows, her brand ambassadorships, everything she's ever produced. Like, the Oprah Winfrey Network is a network. Now, Howard Stern went on to say that Oprah knows how to be rich, likes to show it off, which was something he's just not comfortable with. He doesn't think that people should really show off their wealth. Now, his co-host disagreed, was like, "Oprah's just giving fans a peek inside of her life using social media." He said she's not showing off. But then Howard Stern was like, "Well, you gotta be a little self-aware and know that there are people struggling out there. You gotta think about the kind of people who don't have anything to eat." You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta be a little bit aware of this. So when Oprah interviewed Cindy Crawford, an elite model management founder, John Casablancas, back in 1986, she had Cindy Crawford stand up so the audience could see her body. Now, reflecting on the encounter some 30 years later, Cindy Crawford mentioned, like, "I was something to be seen and not heard." And when you look at it through today's eyes, Oprah's like, "Stand up and show me your body. Show us you're worthy of being here." Now, in the moment, Cindy Crawford didn't recognize it, but watching it back, she was horrified. She was like, "Oh my gosh, that was not okay," especially from Oprah.